Hello and welcome to a tournament of lies, episode 11. We're into double same digit. There you go. The old double same digit. Dennis, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, like it's exciting. It's really
Is it?
it's it's the big one. It's the big one, guys. Big anniversary episode. Here we are.
You know, you have your first double single digit wedding anniversary and it's so impactful. You just
I think that's the podcast anniversary.
Yeah. You can't wait to
get
over the hump of that 10th anniversary just so you can hit that big old 1-1.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
James O'Connor, brought to you by SparkoCam and Henry Winkler. And what are you wearing? What shirt is
Fly,
that?
Eagles, fly. Philadelphia Eagles. We're going all the way this year. Super Bowl, finally, for the first time ever.
Is that actually who you support?
Yeah, damn straight the Eagles.
How many Eagles fans are in LA?
Probably actually a bunch from Philly. But I would say, any team that will throw snowballs at Santa Claus is a team that I can get behind fully. Any team that has a jail in their stadium, to be the only team that has a jail in the stadium, I can get behind fully.
It has a fucking jail in the stadium?
It's, apparently the link used to be a madhouse. So.
Okay. So they just had if you acted up in the stadium, you went to this,
100%.
jail.
And from what I understand, they had a jail and a full courtroom in the basement of the stadium. They were just handing out sentences right there for drunk and disorderly and everything else.
Did they have a fucking lethal injection room in there as well?
Probably not that far. It was mainly a drunk tank, but yes,
right.
That was it.
That's amazing. Fair play.
Yeah. Someday I hope to do a tournament of lies from the top of the 700 level, and we'll just be up there, and we can just sort of do a webcam or.
If not there, from the courtroom.
That'd be great.
From
do a tour. That'd be
from
perfect.
The dock. Nice work.
That'd be the way to go.
Great to have you here again. Took a little while there. We haven't done one in a couple of weeks, but we're back because I don't have a job anymore. So now I get to do this whenever we want, which is awesome. But yeah, James, you're working on a shoot at the moment, taking up quite a lot of your time.
Yes,
Guessing you can't talk about what it is.
No, we'll find about it in the not too distant future.
Okay.
And just sort of go through it. It'll be fun.
Yeah, looking forward to chatting to you about that maybe. And
yes.
Dennis, you're just back from Antwerp.
Yeah, nothing exciting. A conference and one of these work things where you always hear people they go on something like it was a work thing. I didn't really get to see the place, and I'm almost like, you didn't try hard enough.
Yeah.
But actually, I didn't get to see the place probably because I didn't try hard enough. But it seemed like a nice place, but I'll have to go there again maybe to enjoy it.
You went to Antwerp and all you got was this cold.
A cold and a couple of bags of coffee.
Nice. Antwerpian coffee. Drink it down. Well, we've got a bunch of video games to talk about, gentlemen. We have a stacked Purgatory, which we're going to try and get through, and then after that we have a bunch of wonderful suggestions from the folks who emailed lies@atournamentoflies.com. Thank you so much. If you're new to the podcast, if you've never watched this before, because I did get a bunch more YouTube followers after the whole Leaving GameSpot thing, this is nice. A podcast where myself, James, and Dennis try to rank every single video game in the history of time on an ever-expanding list. Right now, the best game ever made on our list of 45 is Rocket League, followed by Deus Ex, Wii Sports, Super Mario World, and Super Meat Boy. And then after that, there's another 40 games. Also, what I love is that James's SparkoCam is falling apart regardless of his investment in it. So if you're watching the video version of this, he's just going to pause slightly every couple of minutes.
Yes, we. It's a bit of a coincidence that at the same time you leave CBS, suddenly Sparkosoft starts acting up.
Is that a coincidence, or is that totally disconnected? Are SparkoCam owned by CBS?
Oh well, you know what? As there's someone who now has a lot of time on his hands in the Bay Area who could maybe break out a magnifying glass and do some investigating. Maybe perhaps in a few weeks I'll come with you and we'll do some investigating in San Francisco.
Some sleuthing.
Yeah.
I just had a timer go off on my phone because I had an eBay. I've been, as part of this, I've realized that so many of the games that get sent in are basically like Nintendo 64 and SNES games, which I have no knowledge of or whatever. So earlier today I was on eBay looking up Nintendo 64s to buy, and my alarm just went off because one of them there's 4 minutes left on. It's a Sega Dreamcast, actually. This one is.
Nice. I was about to say.
It's a lot of games, clean and complete. The games involved: NFL Blitz, Tokyo Extreme Racer, Attitude, bunch of sports games. I I think Revolt's in there. Some other ones. Looks pretty good.
I would say, I was actually going to say to you, as you'd mentioned this earlier, I think GameSpot has some good deals on.
GameSpot?
Yeah, the other one, GameStop, the store one. They have some deals. They started doing pre-owned consoles, and I think they had Dreamcasts for like $40.
They did, and I went to buy one after I saw, I think it was Wario64 or somebody posted it on Twitter, and a bunch of people posted it, and then I went to get one, and they were like sold out already. Or like,
oh wow,
I think they like had like a, we cannot, guarantee this order, in big red text.
Yeah.
I think there was like a bum rush for it.
Dreamcast were great. I honestly think the Dreamcast was the worst timed console ever. Everyone was so hyped up for the PS2, and honestly, like, I think pound for pound, I would rather a Dreamcast. It had such great games.
Saturn's the other one where I don't have any knowledge.
Saturn. I know like two.
Like
I think
Nights?
even Sega CD games. Yeah, Nights into Dreams was a big one. I think they released a version of Snatcher. It was Sega CD, because I've looked again. There's some stores around me that have old school stuff.
Right.
And so I was like, look, I think Kojima had made a game on the CD called Snatcher, which is like sort of, again, like a sort of point click, front face sort of game. And I was like, oh shit, this, like, what is this? Just even owning it will be fun.
Well, there's 2 minutes 50 seconds left on this, and they're selling all these games for $11 right now. So
take it. What's shipping now?
That's only $6-7.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming from Tennessee. So sorry, I know we shouldn't be doing.
I think we should.
chores.
It should be a segment every week.
Yeah.
Or just,
I love it.
should I bring up the screen or something? Should that be like
Absolutely.
Let's see if
as long as it doesn't have like any password.
I don't think it has any passwords. Let me see if we can do this. I'm gonna try
Some
and
live stream it so some troll drives up the price.
Yeah.
This is gonna look. This isn't. I'm gonna put it on over my face. So this is gonna look very weird for anyone who's watching this on the VOD. I apologize profusely. Let's make sure that's actually appearing there. Okay, there we go. Okay, we got it up here. It's got 2 minutes and 5 seconds on it. I'm gonna submit my bid. I always do the last like 10 seconds, $5 above everything else.
Yeah.
Does anyone ever do it any other way? Is that the
No,
only?
I just use a sniper.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Just use like it's not like a piece of software that just like.
Yeah, there's like websites. You just say like, this is the most I'm willing to pay.
But are you ever scared that like accidentally it might just break and it might like
jump to
say, "Oh, I'll just pay 10 grand for this now."
Just never pay that.
Yeah.
Just walk away.
1 minute 32 seconds. I
There you go
mean,
for it.
it hasn't gone up at all yet. I never understand who the people are who like bid anywhere beforehand. Like,
Yeah.
there's
I-
4
I-
bids on this. Like, who the fuck? Why?
I wonder if it's just a case like that's their version of a reminder, or they're literally, oh, you mother Sparkle Cam, you'll pay for this, Sparkle Cam. You'll pay for this. If there's one thing I like, it's my money. The amount of money I threw into you.
How much was Sparkle
back-
Cam again?
No, like $70.
Sucks. $78?
No, 70. I think it was like 70, and there's like 69.
Oh, we're down to 59 seconds. There hasn't been a bid in a while. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. Delivery estimated 3 days. I don't actually own a Dreamcast, and this is only the games, but
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
yeah, it's like 15 games. It's like
Yeah.
tee off. I mean, I love Roll Cage enough just to buy that on its own for 20 quid. So, I've got the Flutter. I have the Flutter. I have the nervous. It's coming.
You're gonna
I gotta get it. What should I go for? So it's 30 seconds left. There's 11:50 right now. Should I just jump in at 20 and see where it lands?
11:51.
No, because it'll just
Okay.
Do it. Go.
Yeah. Okay. Do 20. Do 20.
20. Okay,
Yes.
20 seconds left. I'm gonna refresh the
18.
page. I'm gonna
18.
go. I'm gonna.
Hedge.
15 seconds left. Should I wait for? I'll wait for fucking 6. No, I'll wait for 10 seconds and I'll go 20.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. 20.
Lay it.
Here we go. Confirm. The auction is almost over and I'm currently highest bidder. 4 seconds. 3 seconds. 3 seconds. 1 second. There. Yeah.
Nice.
Got it in the bag. Oh shit! I swapped the screen I was recording from. So
Okay.
probably nobody saw that happening when I put in 20. When I hit 2. There you go.
Segment needs work.
You won. Yeah, the segment needs work, but I won the auction. Hooray!
This can be like our new. This could be your version of like the auction hunters, or all those storage wars. You just go on eBay, just buy stuff.
I got it for $12.50.
It's pretty good.
Nice.
That's not too bad.
Does that mean somebody put down $12.49? Or Does that mean?
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know how that. Or unless it's like the guy might have like set increments he wanted to come up to. So
Right.
maybe
Yeah,
the one
like
before
what was it?
like,
It was 11.50, and you just maybe have to go up $1.
Yeah.
or maybe maybe the algorithm is like the four of you were literally like you've all set your limits, so it like quickly runs through. Okay, this number one gets 11.51.
Right.
Number two's at 52, and then it just keeps on doing that until the highest one it lands on that.
It's great. This should definitely be like a Twitch thing. I bet somebody does it somewhere. There's like a
Yeah.
Twitch
Oh, yeah.
streamer who just does that shit. If there's not, we should do that. I'll just use
Yeah.
all this Patreon money just to bid for shit I
Buy
don't
stuff on
need
eBay.
on fucking eBay.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's get into the list, everyone. Should we tackle Purgatory first of all?
Yeah.
Sure. Yes.
Okay. So for those who need an update, Purgatory is where we put games where we don't know where they're going the list because we haven't played enough of them to really sort of stick them in there. So we put them in Purgatory, we go off, we go back to our homes, and we play them. Why can't I not speak like a human right now?
It's a tough one. It was a toughie. in
And
fairness.
and we install these games, and we load up our controllers and sit down. And
we press
So we
the
go
button.
into settings and we
we enjoy
optimal-
them for 20-30 minutes at a pace, and if they're good, more longer, and if they're worse, shorter lengths of time.
Yes.
And then come back and talk to them.
So some of these games we played for a decent amount of time, and some we barely played at all. But the lists that are currently in Purgatory, the games rather, are Zombie/Zombie U, Tecmo Super Bowl, Blood, Silent Hill 2, Amnesia: The Dark Descent, Slender 7 Pages, and Until Dawn. Let's go for the last one first, because I feel like some of us have played some of that. Until Dawn. Dennis, did you do what we said we'd do and play with your better half?
Yes, I did. Out of pure shame and the fact that I just wouldn't play it on my own. So yeah, I did. But also, she loves horror movies, so there's kind of a everybody wins kind of scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah, played a couple hours of it. I won't lie, I haven't completed it. I wouldn't say I'm probably about halfway, but I'm happy enough to talk about it. And,
Cool.
I'm far enough into it that I'd say I've got the gist of where this game goes.
Yeah, I completed it maybe 3 days ago, I think it was, and myself and my wife did the same thing where I played and I drove, I guess, and then she kind of made the decisions, and then all the quick time events were kind of up to me. To speak to what you're saying, I do think that if you played half of this game, you do know what's going on. There's no like big twist or amazing ending that sort of makes it better or worse than what you think. James, you haven't played Until Dawn, right?
I have not.
You don't.
Okay.
This is a PlayStation 4 exclusive, and you don't own one, right?
I do not own a PS4. I'm unfortunately not played this game.
No worries. So Dennis, what did you think of Until Dawn?
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I suppose it is a big budget horror movie version of, I suppose, the kind of game we've seen from Telltale or something like that, where you're playing a story. It's never going to tax you as a game, really. Although actually, Danny, I was watching you on another kind of video podcast on YouTube, and you're talking about this with the presenter, and you're talking about how your girlfriend was kind of putting you in a hole all the time.
Yeah.
Sorry, girlfriend, wife, and making you do all the hard choices all the time and all this. But yeah, like it's fun, it's compelling, it's funny at times. It is a pastiche on a genre that's pretty smart at times anyway, and it's pretty scary by my standards, admittedly low standards. Yeah, I don't have much bad to say about it. Yeah, go on, you get in there.
No worries. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is like it's very like self-aware. It's not quite Cabin in the Woods levels of like self-aware, but it's sort of playing on horror tropes. Like the characters are, the same, the sexy blonde and the jock and the more dweeby guy who's trying to get the more dweeby girl to like him and all that stuff. And I think it's kind of by design, like it sort of plays with those expectations and then fucks with them a little bit. I think the sort of, whodunit aspect of it was actually like pretty well done. Like a lot of it we'd sort of figured out before it came around, but the execution of those scenes and the believability of the characters' motivations is actually like pretty good. Like it's a ridiculous story, but it's kind of like believable. And the gameplay is great. Like it's the Telltale stuff I like, but I always feel like it's a little more hands off than I'd like. Whereas this one isn't quite like levels of like Heavy Rain hands on where you've got big action scenes and you're shooting things, or like it is I think it hits like maybe the best middle ground between the two, where I feel like I'm in control of where the character's going in the space, but also I'm not like doing too much, right? Yeah, and I don't know, like I was super pleasantly surprised by this game because it spent years coming out, and for what it is, it's like it's a really cohesive game. Like it is what it sells itself as, and it does a really good job of pulling it off. And I think the ending is maybe it kind of ends in a little bit of a whimper, but it's also I enjoyed the experience the whole way through. I wasn't really expecting. It wasn't like one of these movies.
The crescendo that you were looking for.
Yeah, and I was enjoying it so much that I didn't need a crescendo necessarily either, you know. Like it was kind of fun. And by the time it finished, I think myself and my wife were like happy for it to be over as well. It was kind of like, yeah, great. All right, let's wrap it up. We had a bunch of people die in like the last hour. It sucked. Like we had 3 people die because of really stupid decisions. Like that we'd kept them alive really well, apparently. Like I read later that that person should have been dead. But then the last thing, you actually killed them like 3 times. It was like so annoying. But yeah, Until Dawn's a great game. I think anyone who owns a PlayStation 4 should like definitely play Until Dawn. Like it's super fun. I'm not sure about replay value, but
now I was about to say, is it closer to like a Telltale type of game, or is it even like one of those, you know, like mid-90s where they're trying to still mess around with video? No. And it was almost like real-time action type of game.
I think what Danny said, where it's kind of the middle ground between Telltale and like Heavy Rain.
Heavy Rain, okay, cool.
Is really apt. It's exactly what it is.
It's all in engine, right?
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think, like, again, for me, someone who's not the horror, I think they kind of nailed the kind of balance between what I do like in the only kind of horror games I like, which are very atmospheric.
Right.
Does that well. It does the jump scares, like, as you'd expect, you know, that they're often thought of as cheap and easy to do, and they are, but they're still, if you apply them at the right times and stuff. And then, like, it won't spoil anybody, but there's one time in the game where there's a big jump scare, but it's actually not anything scary. It's like a wild animal,
right? Yeah.
And you know, things like that, where it's kind of, there's a little bit of levity after the fact, and it's pretty good. And again, without spoilers, the very first time where something overly violent happens is shocking in a good way, where it's shocking in a, okay, they've done that really well. That's going to play on my mind for the entire rest of this game.
Right.
And it did that really well. And I suppose we didn't touch on this, but there's some points where you're out of the moment. If I think you know what I'm talking about, but I don't want to spoiler it. Where you're not really in the normal setting, which is the kind of the normal middle, like main part of the horror game. You're actually in this kind of secondary setting. Again, don't want to talk about it too much, but it's done really well. And actually, we should maybe mention the kind of mocap stuff and the cast. Yeah, like really, like as a technical thing, it's really, really impressive and enjoyable.
Yeah, you're right. The facial animation, and I mean the body animation is real. There were some times where it was like, oh, like you didn't need somebody to like skip over that, but you did it. Like there was a really good attention to it. Felt like I was watching like a CG movie a lot of the time.
Yeah,
like it's super well done. And you're right. The sort of, I guess, what would you call them, like bookends between chapters is sort of done in an interesting motif, and it happens straight away in the game. But like that whole stuff and the animation that's in that area, like the facial animation, is fucking nuts.
Yeah.
I've never seen like a tongue animated so well. When somebody's talking,
unnerving as well. Really unnerving for something that isn't like on the face of it actually trying to scare you, but kind of is. Obviously, that's what they're going for, but in a different way.
Yeah, totally. All right, let's see if we can get Until Dawn into our Tournament of Lies. Where is this sitting for you, Dennis? You think?
Well, I can say right now that I can't see it going any lower than about 20. Is the lowest. Now, I'm not saying that's I could be convinced to bring it higher, but I think Kingpin, Stanley Parable is where I start thinking, okay, this is a better game. It's better. I'd have it better than Transistor by a decent margin. So somewhere in around there. Where are you thinking?
Yeah, no, I was actually very similarly thinking somewhere between 16 and 20.
Yeah.
Because it's weird. Like it's funny actually, because LA Noire is probably the only game here that I put it anywhere close to in terms of mechanics, but that's mostly probably because of the storytelling, facial animation stuff that it kind of shares. Maybe it's very different to everything else in this. Skate is the one where I'm like, I mean, Skate.
Struggle there. isn't
Yes, Skate 2 is better. But Skate 1's a great game. I
Like,
think.
it's one of these horrible things about the list again, where it's kind of like probably want to put it above LA Noir, but maybe just below Skate.
Yeah, right.
When I do a like for like comparison against each of those, but that's not really how the whole thing works. Papers Please again is just such a wonderful game. Things have to be, in my eyes, pretty exceptional to go above Papers Please. Until Dawn's a very good game. I'd be happy to have it slot in above LA Noir, or literally, like kind of anywhere there between going in at 18 to 20 works for me.
Yeah, I actually think that because I was just thinking about how Skate is, like, Skate's is a great game for what it did, but it's not the most cohesive of those games. Like, there are better games in that in that list, but I don't know. I feel like Until Dawn is just like it's like I wouldn't change it in any way. Like, it's great for what it is. Like, the way they did it, it's that type of game, and they execute it really well. And I think that it's definitely better than that. Like, Papers, Please is not one of those games, but LA Noire and Skate aren't. Like, they've got sort of like their own little problems. Yeah, I kind of feel like it could slot in there. I'm happy with that. You happy with that? It would be number 18 then, I guess.
Yep, I'm comfortable with that.
Yes.
It's above LA Noire and Skate.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those games, I think, that has me even slightly considering a PS4.
Right.
Where, that's what's going to be it for me when I do eventually get it, is like the
Sorry.
no, just exclusive. Just exclusives. Like, that is definitely one of those.
Yeah, like, it's rare for me to buy a horror game of my own volition, and okay, it helps that after I'd bought it, that we got sent in the list, because I still hadn't actually put it in my console to play, but like, I bought this because everything I had heard was really positive, and I had a PS4, and there's not many exclusives that I really wanted to play, but Until Dawn lives up to the billing, so impressed.
Yeah, so there. All right, first game in. Until Dawn, slotting in at number 18. Congratulations to the people at, I was about to say Ready at Dawn, but they're the people who made the order. Supermassive Games. There you go. Not congratulations to them. They're still now 49 on our list.
How long?
Yes, we'll find out soon enough. Let's get to another game in our Purgatory, shall we? How about, have any of you guys played Amnesia?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a feeling Dennis is... I think we've just tapped out on what Dennis is going to cover the Purgatory lives, and we'll do him a favour and just plow through everything else.
Like, James had the last one out. I'll allow you to.
Excellent. You've played a little bit of Amnesia, have you, Danny? Or?
I did. I played about 2 hours of it this week. And I realized I had actually played it when it came out, but I definitely did not remember large parts of that game. So yeah, you go ahead first then, James. What do you think about it?
I have not finished the game. I've gone deep into it, definitely. And it's one of those things where I feel like I probably am missing something, or, as we're talking about it, people are like, no, you missed X that happens. But it's an interesting game. It's sort of, I think when it came out again, it was another one of these indie titles that like sort of set a bar or showed what you could do with, very little, and sort of still have that sense of horror, and sort of really sort of like apply that to the scene. But it's just sort of a very strange game. It like sort of borderline sort of walking simulator,
right, and
horror game, and not even quite an action game, because I don't think you ever get a weapon or anything. You solve puzzles, you go through. It's a nice looking game for what it is for the engine, but I don't know how I feel about it in general. Like, in saying I haven't finished it yet, I don't think I will go back and finish it.
Right.
There's just like there's just some things like that. The main thing that I think it sort of does, and it does it okay, is that it's supposed to have this element that the more scared or psyched out your character gets, you start to see things, and like the walls start changing, or like suddenly bugs are crawling on the screen, and that type of effect that you're losing your mind. And really, whenever I was doing it, it just kind of made me miss and remember I had never finished Eternal Darkness that came out on the GameCube in 2003, and I just sort of spent a lot of time going like, I would just be playing like, oh yeah, I was like, what did this way better, or at least at the time just had like an interesting thing when I first did it, was Eternal Darkness. It's frustrating at times. I find that you'll play this game, and then there'll be moments where you can't help but getting hit by like not
Yeah.
giving too much away, but like the world will get more messed up. So you'll be in like the main lobby and it's nice, and then suddenly the walls start to bleed, or like this ooze comes out of it, and anytime you walk by it, you get hit.
Yeah, that's
like-
kind of cheap. I had that happen a couple of times already.
Yeah, and it's happened to me a lot. And then it's also like one of those things where along the same lines, there's been several times where like you just can't help but go crazy. I understand that like, oh, you're in the dark and you start to lose your mind. Like that's supposed to be part of that, like you go crazy if you're in the darkness too long, so you have to keep it alight. But in the same way, I feel like there's moments where you're scared. Like it does that weird like breathing effect where it's like, oh, and you can't avoid it again. It's like it just happens when the room changes.
Oh, it's camera here.
It's Sparkle's off messing with me again.
It's grand. I mean, it's weird, right? I think it's impossible to talk about this game without like speaking to the era that it sort of happened in, because this was one of the first of those first person horror experiences. It was like the first of the new wave of them. I mean, that studio had done them before with the Penumbra, I want to say, franchise.
Okay.
But like it was the start of like the whole new wave of like, we talked about the amount of those Slender games that came out.
Yes.
And obviously Amnesia's had its sequel, and it's had Soma as well. But yeah, there was that whole wave. Even Five Nights at Freddy's was kind of part of that as well, of like horror games that Twitch streamers were playing.
Yes.
And they were sort of the, I guess the what would you say, like the
well, the forerunners or the ambassador
of that new
Yeah.
sort of wave. So when you play this game, you see loads of stuff that's been done way better in the years since, even by this studio.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a little bit strange. So when you're playing it, and the thing that it reminded me actually of was Call of Cthulhu: Dark Corners of the Earth,
Okay.
which was another one that came out, I want to say like 6, 7, 8 years ago maybe, which had a similar kind of like you running away and like heavy breathing and not having weapons and all that. But what was so I like this. I think a lot of what this game was people enjoyed at the time was definitely a novelty, because loads of those types of games, even Eternal Darkness, like never had massive widespread appeal, or at least it was to a different generation, whereas this was to like a new sort of generation of gamers and Twitch watchers and all that. And I think it didn't have the same effect, for people who played games prior, and also looking back on it after playing much sort of more refined versions of those games.
Yeah, no, I think so. And I think also it's like definitely one of those things, like I guess almost like I'd say Twitch at the beginning was mainly people just playing scary games and like, oh shit, what's going to happen now?
And I guess YouTube as well, I should say. It's
Yes.
like, that's part of the YouTuber kind of thing as well.
Yeah, and I think I like playing with like they do, as I said, like the atmosphere that they create is good, the sound effects and all the rest of it. But there's just like this is only so, and the story is good. I mean, it's sort of very standard, but it's interesting, and you'll follow along and you unravel the mystery as you go through. But there's just so many times where I could be like in a dark, like I'm at a point now where it's like it's nothing but darkness, and it's nothing but like, oh, there's a monster in the hallway, and you've no way of defending you do anything. Right. And I get that for like the first few levels.
I thought the water thing was really good.
I was about to
that
say.
Was great.
Yeah, I was about to say that was the first time. I mean, again, there are parts where like again early, and there's like the first time you see a monster in the background, and you're like, oh, and you're like, okay, cool, and you hide and you do this sort of stuff. And for the most part, I was like, oh, this isn't too bad. The water monster chase thing was probably the first time where like I actually like stood up and was just like, oh, like just like, okay, this is like wiping sweat off my brow.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things. Yeah, as you said, like there's a lot of things it does nicely and does well, but it's just I think I've hit my level with this game.
Right.
And it's good.
All right, let's slot it in there somewhere. Let's try and get in our ever expanding list of games. Where do you think this sits then, James, for you?
I would say maybe 30, 31.
Okay, so that would put it in the realm of
like Spec Ops.
Spec Ops, Donkey Kong Country 2, City of Heroes, Candy Crush, Saints Row the Third. Lots of good games.
Yeah. Because this isn't a bad game, but it's just definitely. Again, I don't think it's going to be a game like. I think we probably acquired this when it came out, or like a year or so after it came out, and because I know it's been existing on my like Steam list forever.
Oh yeah, well it's been out since 2011, so it's 5 years old now.
Okay, yeah, and I doubt most people are going to. It's not really something that you would recommend people to go back and pick up.
No, like I definitely say play Machine of Pigs or For Pigs probably more than that right away, and then there's other ones as well. I'm sure nothing's coming to mind right now, but like the first person horror genre there's other things to play there. Yeah, okay. Let's dive down a little bit more specifically. Then, is Amnesia: The Dark Descent better than Saints Row the Third?
Probably not.
Yeah, I agree. Let's keep going down then. Spec Ops: The Line.
I know you were going to say no.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no.
And it probably is. Probably you can get more. Spec Ops probably does something a bit more different than it does. Not Donkey Kong Country 2.
No, City of Heroes. I mean,
I can Candy Crush. Now, once we get to sort of the Gone Home, Angry Birds, Candy Crush, I think it goes out. Like I might recommend it ahead of Gone Home to people.
okay. Here's the problem, right?
Yes.
Is it better than Five Nights at Freddy's?
I never played it, so I'm gonna
Like-
give to you.
To me, it's definitely better than Five Nights at Freddy's because
Okay.
and it's so similar in it's like in such a similar genre, and Five Nights at Freddy's is so rudimentary that like I think it has to be above that anyway.
Okay.
So is it better than like Gone Home? Like no, I don't think it's better
I think
than Gone Home.
I think it sits next to Gone Home, and then maybe then either side of that.
Better than Super Hexagon?
That's okay. That's we can put it behind Super Hexagon. How do you feel about Soldier of Fortune?
I don't know. I kind of think that Soldier of Fortune's a better game than Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
Okay, so okay, it can go. Honestly, I'm happy for it to go number 37. I was being fair because it did some nice things, but it's just I don't know. As I said, like it was nothing that I even wanted to power through. Like I played a little bit more of it again a day or so ago. And I was like, okay, no, I'm gonna maybe finish it because I know I'm probably close. And I just played a little bit more, and I was just like, it's it just lost me by a certain point.
I think it's a good game. It's not a great game.
Yeah.
It was a better game at the time, and it was a trendsetter,
Yes.
and that's awesome. But it doesn't have that classic feel that like old games that were good need to have to be like relevant and on high on the list to
Yes.
me. All right, 38 then. Is that all right?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, between Five Nights at Freddy's and Soldier of Fortune is our latest game on the list. A list of 50 games now. Amnesia,
Nice.
The Dark Descent. Okay,
Ding ding ding.
that's two of those. Let's see if we can get through one more of the
Purgatory.
Purgatory games. I'm guessing we haven't all divin into Silent Hill too much.
Oh no,
Not
and
yet.
I want to actually get that one and like Zombie U. I actually want to play.
Yeah.
Like I want to go through. So like I think Silent Hill 2 will take some time. So they might be like way,
Yeah.
a grab bag later.
Dennis, what about you?
I haven't played it yet, and I'm in the same boat. Yeah, Zombie U in particular.
Yeah, same here. I want to make sure we kind of give that one due diligence. I've played a couple of hours and actually really liked it, so I want to do that. How about Blood or Tecmo Super Bowl?
You know what? I can talk about both. Blood might be controversial enough of us putting it on this list
Why?
if we do.
Do you think it was a pile of trash?
Yeah, I think it's absolute dog shit. Like I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel I sympathize. Okay, let's do Blood. Here we go. We're gonna do Blood. 'Cause
Let's do
I
Blood.
think we've all played it. Have you played some Blood or?
I
how have
played
you?
some. Dennis,
Okay.
have you played it?
I've played upwards of minutes.
Okay.
Yes, I've probably put in an hour. I probably put in 2 hours or so.
Wow.
Okay.
I want to say.
You
But
can, you can
better-
tell what
better
that
man
game
than I.
is. Yeah, you can tell what that game is in an hour easy.
Yes, and I mean like we can take a flashback to the summer of 1995, 1996, and I remember being a young wee lad, reading the fine pages of PC Gamer, and they had a review. You would see still images. I don't even think I played a demo, or maybe I played I think a friend had like a freeware.
Okay.
But I remember the review getting like 67%. And again, like, young kids, you're like, oh no, shooting stuff, first person shooters, Doom, all these sort of games. And I was like, why does it get such a low review? It you have dynamite for a bomb, you have like 2 guns. This is everything you want. You're shooting
Set
bad
shit on
guys.
fire. You can
It's
kick
called
their heads.
Yeah, it's called Blood. There's everything there, and like so, it's been a game that I sort of forgot about until I've sort of always remembered it, but like who gives a shit by this stage? And then it came to this list, so I was like, oh great, I can finally go back and play Blood because I've gone back in recent years and played. I'll see Sparker doesn't want you. The story Sparker doesn't want you to hear. I've gone back in recent years and I've like played Duke Nukem 3D, and
Right.
probably it's nostalgia, but from level design, from what it is, it holds. I think it holds up. I definitely think it's there. Blood is just caught in that like bad zone where it's still that sort of like faux 3D game. It's still sort of like got the sort of like motion capture for some characters. It's like just computer graphics for others. and it's still more than anything. I don't know if they changed it for the version you have. It has that element where the controls are still the old school like Wolfenstein 3D style controls.
Yeah.
Rather than the later Half-Life controls.
Yeah,
like you pretty much, it's auto lock on fire. There's not really a strafe you're sort of turning. So like again, that didn't help trying to play it now. So used to the other kind.
Yeah,
of
it's also again we should mention that does not have a very sort of elegant way of changing the control scheme.
Yeah,
it has like an awkward mouse support thing, and this is the Steam version that you get access to as well.
Oh wow, so that's I think I had the GOG version.
Right. Okay.
And it's
same thing.
Okay.
Anyway, outside of the controls though, that's
yes, but no, just then even as a game, it's just like it's trying to be that sort of 3D realms, sort of like cheesy, corny lines. But there's just like at least for me, there was an overbearing MIDI track, just playing the same song for 2 hours.
I mean, to me, it's the sort of game it's like one of the it's like an also ran in the heyday of first person games,
like
right?
They just threw everything out there.
And what it was trying to do uniquely was like have an interesting setting and like weird mechanics, and like loads of the world is interactive, which is cool, which was like a big thing back then. There's loads of secrets. You can like kick their heads around.
Yeah.
You know, they have an almost like Doom 2016 health thing where if you like kill people the right way, you get their hearts, and that adds to your health, which is kind of interesting. And it has like voodoo dolls, and there's like an aerosol canister with a lighter, which you can use as a flamethrower. Which I remember when I was a teenager or like a kid was like, that's the most fucking badass weapon ever, because I could do that right now. But yeah, I agree. It's like it was like a fun novelty back in the day, because it's like, oh, it's not like taking itself as seriously as Quake or Doom or anything, but it's kind of weird in its own little way, but it doesn't really hold up at all.
Even from like and it is also the level design isn't great.
Yeah, well, I mean, they introduce dynamite to you, and the first thing you do is fight indoors.
Yeah,
so it's like fucking blow yourself up 50 times.
And even then, it's like I was caught in a rock and a hard place playing this, where I initially was like, oh, I'll just play it on normal, like the medium setting, and it is very hard. Like it's very tough. And then so I went down. I didn't have the heart to go all the way to the like easiest. Because I was like, no, I don't want it to be too, I want to get the feel for what the game was like. So I went down like one level, and even that was just like a pain just to play through. Like, just not even so much like, oh, they give you too little ammo. It's just the way they just throw people at you. Like every corner, it's like, oh, here you go. Here's two people just running in your face. And you're like, well, that can happen once and again. But when it's just like every single room I go into, I'm back down to 10 health.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they don't telegraph where anyone is. So you end up playing this game. Like you get ambushed so much that it's like you're not playing a game and like solving 4 problems that come up. You're playing the game, reloading, and then figuring out what you learned by dying to get through there with more health, which is kind of like a shitty way to play a first-person shooter.
Exactly. There's and also like to think that this came in 1996, like the same year as Quake, which I think still holds up. Like Half-Life was a year away.
A year before, wasn't it?
No, I think it was 97. Or maybe it was like the Christmas of 96. But like there's other games that were sort of there, and it's unfortunately like probably came out.
Oh, it was 98, sorry, yeah.
Oh, 98, yeah.
But yeah.
So it's probably like, it came out like a year too early. Sorry, a year too later than like all the bad, like cheesy, corny Duke Nukem 3Ds, the Shadow Warriors, and all those sort of games that like also did the same thing.
Yeah, you're right, actually. They came out in 1997, yeah, so a year before Half-Life.
Yeah, and then like
came out in 1997.
Yeah. Like all these sort of games that just sort of like did new things with controls and did stuff, and it was just like was just too late to the party. I think it could have easily slotted in and been a game of that time.
Yeah,
but sort of like looking back now, like knowing where it is, it's just like how.
Monolith Productions' first ever game, who went on to create No One Lives Forever and Alien vs Predator 2 and all those, and the Fear franchise and Condemned, of course, which are much better horror games. Dennis, what did you make of Blood?
Yeah, I guess. Well, firstly, it's a horrible game. Terribly bad to play. The opening scene is one of the most, like, it's almost like one where you can be like, oh, this is so bad that I love it. But it's actually just dreadful. I can't see past, like, a lot of time we say something was good for its time, and we give it a little leeway on that. But actually, this is almost hammered by where it sits in its time. Doom 1 and 2 had come out 3 to 4 years previously. Wolfenstein 3D, which holds up far better, came out like 6-7 years beforehand. Like it's just a really unplayable like crap. Like, so I have nothing good to say about it. Other than that, I kind of giggled out of exasperation at the beginning of the game. The controls, I know you already told me to not talk about controls, but I'm talking. They're just garbage.
And again, I know we're sort of like lost in it. And you're saying like don't worry about the controls or something, but like to see where it like lands, it does. I know it's different for us to play that way now, but it is just sort of like that does sort of play into sort of like the gaming experience. Like,
well, I mean, like Wolfenstein, you play with keyboard
it's the same way.
controls, and it works. With this one,
and it holds up. You can play that today.
Sure.
Like, you're not gonna sit down and hold your attention there for 5-10 hour playthrough, whatever it takes to go through Wolfenstein. But you know, you're having some sort of fun while playing it. But no, not with blood. No fun.
No.
Well, the weirdest thing maybe about the Blood experience was that I did play it on a stream a couple of years ago, and I remember being really excited to play it because I remember playing Blood in a friend's house when I was like whatever, fucking 9 years old, 10 years old, and being like, wow, this is like gnarly, and you can shoot flares at people and then they set on fire after a couple of seconds. Like, there was something really cool and gnarly about it when I was a teenager. And then when I played it later, I was like, oh no, this game is fucking garbage. Like, it's no, like the reasons why I liked it are because of like dumb teenage reasons, like, or dumb, like, not even teenage, like,
preteen.
Yeah, preteen reasons. So yeah, all right, let's stick it on a list.
See, this is the thing where it's really controversial, and I almost want to give it a more of a play, just so we can give it justice, because, like, do we break the joke that the Order 1886 stays at 50? Like,
I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's like that bad.
Make it 49. It's better than Minesweeper.
At least Blood is a game, and I don't think either of those are games.
Okay.
I don't know. What do you think, Dennis?
Really, really dreadful. It has to go low, but again, like, we get to that stage where it's like the Order is maybe everything wrong with big budget trash that's made these days. The Order is everything that's wrong with the the bloated middle of a bygone FPS era that didn't really put in or out on anybody. And I think has maybe, like, it was a convoluted story from what little I took from it, but like, they at least were trying something.
You could kick the heads. That was cool.
Yeah.
Like,
I would rather play more Blood than play the Order. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, if I was going to put
See, here's a controversial one, because again, we haven't played Hellgate London or Unreal Championship 2 yet, but at least I haven't. I know somebody did Hellgate London. Dennis, would you rather play Duck Hunt or more Blood?
It just depends on how long I have to play it for.
Yeah, okay, that's because that is fair enough then. Like, I think there's at least
probably Duck Hunt. Oh, but like, if you play Duck Hunt for more than like 10 minutes, you just lose your mind.
See, here's the thing that I will say, that like, if I had the tolerance and was stuck in a room where the only thing to do was play Blood, like, I probably would play it through just to sort of see how the level design played out, see what the bosses were like, all this sort of stuff. I would play Blood through, but it's sort of one of those things where it's like I don't know.
I don't think it can go above Unreal Championship 2 Leandry Conflict.
No.
Because that's a perfectly workable game that any of us could play and wouldn't be upset to play.
Which will be getting re-slotted probably in the next while.
Probably.
We'll
and
see.
it's not going to go gigantically higher, because actually up to the point of Unreal Championship 2, I don't think we have a game there that we're like, oh, this is filth. It's actually the bottom 2 or 3. And even Duck Hunt is probably the one that kind of bridges that gap between these are all fine games and at the upper limit's fantastic, and then these are just not a game / really bad.
Garbage day.
Yeah.
Garbage day.
I feel
for
like
me it's going either side of Duck Hunt, but go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it goes under Duck Hunt, but maybe not any lower.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right.
I'm sorry, Blood, and I'm sorry, Monolith. I appreciate that this was your first game. We all have to start somewhere. Maybe it's just a little delayed coming off the market. It's sort of there. And again, 10-year-old James was like greatly impressed by what you did. Like, I was like, this is badass. Again, it was everything. It's everything that little boys want. Just shooting stuff, and it's blood and guts, and it's slightly satanic. That whole thing. There's cults in it. It's all this whole jazz. But
and like, every first-person shooter was hard when I was that age, so I didn't notice how, like, and it's not even hard in a fun way. It's like, why is there mice eating me? all of a sudden.
Yes,
like,
thank you. Like that was the most annoying thing. It's like, oh, okay, like even if I crouch, I can't really hit them.
Yeah,
or I
I
have
know.
to shoot them or use my thing. Yeah, that's the thing. And I think also that what helped is like when you're 10, you just use the fucking all weapon sheet anyway straight away.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I'll just breeze through this game
You're
with
right.
the last
Actually,
weapon.
Now that you mentioned that, I remember doing God mode and all weapons, and that's how I played that game. So
That's how I should have probably done it to review it. And I've just
Yeah.
been like, this is have an asterisk. But yeah, I'm sorry, Blood.
there you go. 51 on our list. Blood is number 49 on a tournament of lies. While James is fixing his Sparkle Cam, I will get to the next one, which well, we're running out of Purgatory games here. We got Blood out of there, we got Until Dawn out of there, we got Amnesia out of there. Should we take maybe one more? I'm not sure. So
I haven't really played any of the rest, but I'm happy for you guys because I think between Slender or Super Tecmo Bowl, they could probably get listed.
Yeah.
Here's the thing I will say for Super Tecmo Bowl is
Tecmo Super Bowl.
Tecmo Super Bowl, Bo Jackson's Tecmo Super Bowl. I almost feel like, hey guys, we save that one until Dennis plays it.
Okay.
Because if it does happen, Dennis, I have a feeling this will suddenly be a staple at Walsh Manor.
Okay.
He will get it for the Wii U, he'll get it for something, and suddenly Tecmo Bowl will be the game that's played with Rocket League and everything
Can
else.
I get that on a modern console? Can I get it on my Wii U?
Yes.
I can tell you how to get it if you want.
Okay.
It definitely came out on the Wii, and I want to say the Wii U.
James, I can tell him how to get it. I can tell you how to get most of the games that are on the NES. Is that it's one of those games that's available on like a million in-browser emulators.
Okay, sure.
So I played like a good hour of it just on my desktop using like playretrogames.com or something like that. So if you just Google it, it'll come up. Yeah, it's I played about an hour of it. So the first time I played it, I actually picked, I guess, what I thought was the Oakland Raiders, and then realized it was the LA Raiders. And then the first time I got the ball, I handed it off to this dude who ran past everyone and ran straight into and then realized it was Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
Nice.
Who was like the most OP character in that game, apparently. Okay.
Obafemi Martins of Tecmo Super Bowl.
Love it. Okay, let's come back. The Gabriel Batistuta sensible soccer of that game. Okay, we'll come back to that. Let's get into some new games then, friends. We'll probably only get squeeze in maybe just the one because we're going to be pushing up on the hour. So there's a couple of ones we could do here. Okay, this is a really good one, actually.
Go.
These are good games, although now I feel like I want to get some shitty games in here from what Dennis was saying about the bottom three. But okay, let's do this one. This one's from Nathan Fear. And he has 3 games for us here on a Tournament of Lies. 3 franchise starters. So the first game in a franchise that perhaps went on to do much, much better. The first game is a real franchise starter. One of the biggest franchises maybe in video game history. The original game came out in, I want to make sure I get this right, 1996, and there has since been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 games, including some mobile ones, I want to say. Maybe one of the most recognizable protagonists in the history of video games. Certainly the most recognizable female protagonist in the history of video games. This is Tomb Raider.
Nice.
I'm guessing we've all played Tomb Raider?
Yes.
Yes, all right. Dennis, do you want to go first on this one, maybe?
Sure, but I'll have to get my biases out there, at least because I'm going
Dennis
back,
hates women.
No, but I do, so I should really exclude myself. So I played this in a time where I was a kid and a Nintendo fanboy. So I didn't want to like it, and I didn't love it. I found it. Tomb Raider's had an unbelievable renaissance in its recent years. Its last couple of games have been fantastic, but I don't know. It was soulless to me. I'm going to be overly harsh and probably saying things that you guys will potentially say are lies. But like even the starting parts with the mansion, right?
That's the sort of the training level.
Yeah. Like I remember people like just banging on about that ad nauseum, and it just being like, oh, this is boring. And then pretty much every level to me just seemed boring and not fun looking. I guess I came from, all games at that stage, especially kind of the move into 3D, they were blocky and ugly to a point. But I don't know, I think the time the real world kind of stuff didn't suit it, whereas like Spyro the Dragon did kind of suit it, and
Right.
it was fun and enjoyable. So yeah, I don't want to exclude myself, but I have these like real negative opinions of that I feel are like opinions technically can't be wrong, but I feel like my opinions on this could be wrong.
Right, informed a bit by, I guess, like Nintendo games were very colorful and sort of fantastical in a way that
That's
Tomb
just
Raider
what I
was.
liked at the time.
Yeah. I'm a huge Tomb Raider fan, and I love that first game. And I remember like Tomb Raider 2 and 3 being like Christmas present games for me. Years later. I have massive time for this game. I didn't have a Nintendo, and I think I was kind of late to the PlayStation party, so Tomb Raider had already come out, and I picked it up. I guess it was one of the big platinum games, like a lot of people sort of had. I love it. I think like I enjoy games where you're exploring worlds. Like that's kind of I like being alone and just like wandering around and shit like that. So like even when I play games like Fallout, I rarely have like a companion with me. I just like getting lost and trying to figure shit out. So I love Tomb Raider for that. I like the way it wasn't action focused. Like sure there was like wolves and stuff, and there was the dinosaur and whatnot, and like it got a little bit harder. Like the Egypt stuff at the end was a bit more shooty, but I like it so much more than the second game, which was much more action focused than Tomb Raider 1. And I liked the animation. I thought was amazing at the time. Like watching her like fall and die is still one of the most visceral. Like it's up there with like Prince of Persia getting chopped in half. I'm the one who hates women, exactly. I like it. There wasn't even like that much in terms of like it was so much about solving puzzles and like figuring out how much air you had left and trying to like orientate yourself. Like you didn't really like have a map or anything, so you just had to figure out what the world was. And like you got stuck in that game a lot, but I never really felt frustrated. It just felt like panicky, like oh my god, I'm stuck in this cave and I can't get out. Like what the fuck am I supposed to do? So
I do recall that feeling actually, now that you mention it, and I think maybe like I don't want to be backtracking, and like I'm not going to get too involved in actually putting this in a place.
Right.
But I do recall that feeling actually coming across well, which is impressive for its time. Get that feeling of kind of claustrophobic isolation. Maybe it's not as I don't know. Anyway, look, I'm going to stop rambling, James.
No worries.
Look,
Go
I
for it,
hate
James.
women more than the both of you. So I'll start by saying, no, it was one of those things where I'll say I'll preface this though, and so why this first one off, you motherfucker.
That's the best. Sorry for the people
Sparker.
watching the video version. That is the best possible place for it to crash.
Yes.
So what a face! Look at that.
I
That's
should just leave.
That's a
I should
face
just-
not many people get to see.
I should just leave it there for the rest of the thing. No, I will say this. I sort of played the second one first.
Okay.
So I play in that order. So I will, again, to a degree, and this is probably something that you and I will always have an argument about, I will put the second one above
Okay.
the first one. But I will say this, and I think the second one, Dennis, is the one you're talking about, the mansion, because it was like a whole separate level, and it was vast, and it was spread out, and there's all
It
this
was
stuff.
in the first one as well, though. You could lock.
Yeah, there was a training thing, I think, at the very start.
You could lock him in the fridge in the first one. I'm pretty sure. I think it was in 3
think-
as well, or 2 was the
Yeah.
one where it had like the swimming pool downstairs and shit. I think.
Yeah, I think that was one might have been just a training room, but maybe you could have also gone to a kitchen. But it was like one of those. I will say this for the first one. I agree with you guys. The first one I think is way more a puzzle game and exploration and like sort of. I remember just being a lot of very large puzzles, or very much going through the levels.
Yeah.
Like and I think it does that very well. Like for what it did is, again, we sort of talked in the last game what it did at its time, what this did at its time, just in terms of like 3D and how you turn and like planning your jumps
Yes.
to get to the other thing is like the huge thing. Like, is it a running jump? Is it just a huge jump? Like, and also how high you get in some of those levels is probably the scariest part because you'd plan everything out, and if you fell, you're either dead and have to restart or just go further on. There's a lot of good levels in this too. I remember the sort of, was it like all the gods, like the god you had to do like a thing for Odin, and it was just planning everything to get up through different parts. But I do think, I don't know, I think it's good. I think it definitely paved the way. Like a lot of shit gets thrown into it where it's like all about Lara Croft, but like really what the game sort of put forward, just even in terms of game, like it's fantastic.
Well, I think like there's this weird like there was a lot of like marketing around Lara Croft, which
Yeah.
was like this super hypersexualized kind of stuff that actually wasn't in the game at all. Like,
No, not even.
Like her character was never like referred to that way, and like even like the model and the animation, right, that stuff, like it was never that at all. And in a weird way, that's the games ended up turning to that a bit, like with Angel of Darkness and stuff. And I think I love Tomb Raider now, the 1996 one, even more after the reboots have come out, because the reboots are good games, but they're not fucking Tomb Raider games. They're like Gears of War or Uncharted, or like they're games about murdering hundreds of people. Like I'm trying to think, did you kill any humans in the first Tomb Raider? I don't know
I was
if
about
you
to say,
did.
the only people you kill are the 4 people that sort of chase you down.
Right.
There's like sort of, I think in the later, or like the last 4 levels, it's like sort of like 4 boss battles type of take place.
I can't even remember. Yeah, but it's mostly like animals and stuff. I know it was a lot more shooting in the second one, but like
Yes, and I think that's sort of initially what I liked. The second one was a bit more action while still having that like sort of adventure feel, exploration feel. But yeah, the second one by comparison is an action game. And I again, I don't want to take away from the first one. The second one, just like locations, I feel maybe in the first one, you know, you are sort of always in the cave. You're Tomb Raider. You're like literally going around these places, these ancient ruins, looking stuff. Where the second
like
one,
Mexican cave, Egyptian cave.
yeah, and where the second one's a bit more like, oh, opera house. Oh, you're in Italy.
Venice.
Oh, you're in the Arctic.
Venice stuff was amazing with the boats and all that. Was
Yeah.
so good. Yeah.
But no, I mean, like I think one does. Yeah, as you said, like it didn't really matter that she's a woman. It was great that she did, or like at least from that sort of standpoint, the media that sort of went around it. But no, it just did a lot right. Even again, like just killing bats or like killing wolves or whatever wasn't a big part of it. It was literally more just exploring, going through, getting the parts, and getting into the level.
Yeah, it was just like an added thing that was, you know, it was the core of that game. No pun intended. Was definitely just like puzzle solving. I mean, it was a puzzle platformer game, and you're right. Like even the action to it was to make the reference again. Was it like Prince of Persia, where you were counting the amount of blocks to see how far you needed to, would you be able to jump the gap or whatever, you know?
Yeah,
it was cool. I love that game so much. All right, I think I like it the most. James, you're probably second, and then Dennis is in a solid third on this one.
Yeah.
So let's go with James then, since you're the sort of the one in the middle. Where you think for Tomb Raider on our Tournament of Lies? Oh, he's thinking about it.
I think it goes top 20.
Okay, yeah.
It goes, just looking at it, goes top 20.
How high up the top 20?
I know, that's the thing. Does it go? Maybe right now, maybe ahead of Papers, Please. You were the teller for Sunset Overdrive, but I'm just sort of like, it definitely in my mind again. It definitely lives around that world of Crash Bandicoot.
Okay.
It did a lot. Like just again, that pretty much was 3D platforming. Like there's sort of Mario 64 and I think Tomb Raider are the two games that sort of really set the tones for almost like the two styles. 3D platforming.
Yeah, I mean, without that, there'd probably be. I mean, like it was kind of the thing that gave third-person action games like a watermark to kind of hit.
Yeah.
For a while, because like Tomb Raider 3, you know, being honest, ended up being it was a pretty actiony platformer game by that stage, right?
And even by like I think I pretty much dropped out around Last Revelation, which I think was the fourth one. But even then, like all the sort of like games that sort of came out, like Death Trap Dungeon and these assaults, like Nightmare Creatures, all these sort of like slews.
Right.
I mean, they became very much like on the ground 3D sort of fighting, but or it's like, you know, just going through and experiencing stuff. But I don't think it really, you know, I in my mind it goes with near Crash, but you guys are definitely the bigger Gears of War fans.
I think it's I don't know. You think it goes above Crash or below Crash? Because Crash is the one that I keep thinking is like a little bit out of place on this, but then I'm not
maybe
biggest
above,
Crash fan.
I guess above Crash. I mean, does it go above NHL 94? Because you guys are the BioShock Infinite guys. Does it go above that? Does it go above NHL 94?
Dennis, I want to go to you next. What do you think? Last.
like Ratchet and Clank, and I hope people say that I'm making an effort here with PlayStation games and go back. Ratchet and Clank for me is like the poster child for like, oh, here's a game that I wrote off and it's actually phenomenal. So I won't rule out that Tomb Raider is fantastic. There's no game in the top 20 that I would prefer to play Tomb Raider over.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think, like, I do think we can accept that we have a heavily weighted list towards the good games at the moment. And I'm not saying this is a reason to put it down lower, but I'm just saying, like, I think our top 20 are more or less all fantastic games, not just good. But I think, you know, anybody who really loves Tomb Raider would absolutely argue that it's a really, really top game. And I know where it sits in the history of video games. I know it's a really important game. Crash Bandicoot, I think, is probably more kind of throwaway and more like, yeah, I used to love playing this for 20 minutes kind of, than those who love Tomb Raider, who loved that it was like what you guys are talking, that it was an exceptional game, especially yourself, Danny. You're, you know, it's left this, you know, gigantic lasting impression on you. So like I can see how it could end up being quite high, but I can't fairly rate this.
Okay.
So now, if this was just your list, Dennis, I'm guessing it doesn't break the top 20.
No, I think it's not really a fair way to do things. I'd tell you where it goes. It goes in Purgatory if it's just for me.
Okay, yeah.
It needs to be played. It probably would end up being quite close to the 20 mark. Like, again, it's like one of these ones where, like, on historical merit, I'd almost like fire it above like LA Noire or something like that. But then that's just too close to what we just did already with Until Dawn. But like something like Kingpin is where I'd start saying, okay, I'm pretty sure Tomb Raider is like more important. You know, I like a lot of Kingpin, but it's not like the most fun game to play anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'd have some of those kind of similar kind of feelings towards it. I think I was probably maybe came across a bit overly harsh about Tomb Raider, because the more I've listened to you guys, you know, a bit more has come back about things that I didn't hate about it.
Right.
I didn't really hate any of it. I didn't give it a fair chance ever. So.
I'd probably put it in where I think right now is, I think if I was to pick a number, I'd say 14, which is higher than what Dennis would, and is probably on the top end of what you were thinking. Where I think, and Crash is the one I think I need to talk to you guys about. I think it's like more like Gears of War is in 15, and a lot of us were like, hey, look, Gears of War 2 is going to get in here, right? Like Skate's in 20 because Skate 2 is going to get in here somewhere. Tomb Raider, I think a lot of people prefer Tomb Raider 2 than Tomb Raider 1, but I also think that, like, you know, they're closer perhaps.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And then Crash is the one, like, I'm the one that's not super hot on Crash in comparison to you guys, so I could go either way on that one.
And I'm also definitely more of a Crash. Again, I played Crash 2 before I played Crash, so.
Right. Whereas I think, like, Bioshock Infinite and NHL, like, I don't know, like, I think all three of us adore Infinite, and then NHL is getting into, like classic. I feel like Tomb Raider is a game that I love, but also if I went back and played it, I'm not sure if I'd be so into, like, the middle meaty part of it.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I just would love to play that first level over and over again, and then
you wouldn't go through the really long, like, it takes 2 hours to get through levels.
Yeah, probably, right. So I don't know, like, what do you think about, am I asking too much to put it in 14?
I think 14
when I
fair.
compare them to, like, the Crash, I can very much see that.
Yeah.
On a 1-for-1 basis. Like, and again, you know, I keep talking. I keep pretending that I'm going to absent myself from it. I just keep talking again. So
your opinion matters to us.
Yes. I think it's. Well, I mean, you've got your because there's games here that I'm like, oh, just wash past it because I haven't played. Like, you know, if I was just like, what is Sunset Overdrive? Get rid of it. Right. No, I mean, again, I do, and again, I think merit for, like, where it stands in the test and where it stands in its position in time is important here, or that it's influencing it. But I think 14 is fair.
Okay.
I think I would go back and play it again. While they're very different games, I'd probably play it over Crash. But, you know, that's not to write out what the impact Crash had on genres too. Like, it very much was that sort of fun platformer and had to do it that way.
Yeah, kind of similar era as well. Well,
yeah.
Similar era.
I mean,
okay, there you go. Well, yeah, sorry, 14 for Tomb Raider. There we go. It's in. It's the second, the highest edition actually this week on a tournament of lies. We are running over an hour, so let's plow through the other two here. But Nathan put through. Let's just make sure a lot of us have played it. The next one he has is, I'm not sure, is it the first game by Guerrilla Games? It's really up there. It's a first-person PlayStation exclusive that came out in 2004. Any takers on this one? Apparently, it's the second game by then. They made Shell
Resistance?
Shock Nam. The other one, not Resistance. The other
Killzone?
Oh,
yes. There you
Oh.
go. Killzone. Kills 1. The first Killzone game. Probably the one I know the least amount maybe of that series.
I'd have to say the same, but I have played it.
You have played it? James,
I've
no?
played it.
No.
Killzone 2 was the one with the really crazy trailer, right? The E3 trailer that was like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Killzone 2's, and then Killzone 2 I've played a lot of.
Yeah, me too. But I haven't played much. I don't think I played Killzone 1 at all. Alright. Purgatory?
I think maybe.
Yeah.
I think so. If only one of us has played it, that's a given. Okay, Killzone is on Purgatory of Lies. We will get to it eventually. And then the last one for this week. Oh man, this might take a while to get this one in. We'll see.
Okay.
Talking about first games on a list. This first game came out in 2007, made by a company who, prior to that, had worked on games like Baldur's Gate, MDK, Neverwinter's Nights.
Oh wow.
But this was kind of their first big game for themselves. This is from BioWare. This is the first.
Mass Effect.
Yeah, it's the
Oh, wow.
first Mass Effect. Mass Effect 1. I played Mass Effect. James, have you played Mass Effect?
I've played like 15 minutes of it.
Dennis?
What? Yeah, I've completed
Okay.
all the Mass Effect.
I hear it gets really good after minute 20. But
I remembered having a particularly bad start, but
It just-
I don't know.
no, I don't think it did either. I think it was just when I was playing it, it was just like one of those things where I'd start it and get to like the first. I think when I got it, the computer I had didn't really handle it.
No.
And then also, I just sort of like put on a back burner, and there it is sat.
Yeah, fair enough. Like me in Mass Effect 3, I've still not completed it. I'm about 3/4 of the way through and still haven't finished it up. Okay, Mass Effect. Me and Dennis, we can probably rate this between us. I've given it. I've asked everyone else to talk first so far and burdened them, so I'll go first on this one. I mean, Mass Effect. When you think back on it now, sort of similar to what we were talking about. A lot of the other first games we had on our list, and then the ones we added today with Tomb Raider, is kind of like it's difficult to look at it without looking through what happened with the second and third games. You know, the combat in Mass Effect 2 was so much better. Combat in the first game was a little bit messy and muddy. They sort of, I don't know, trimmed a lot of the RPG elements, probably for the better as well in Mass Effect 2. A lot of people didn't like the Mako stuff that was in the first game. I actually didn't mind it that much.
Nor did I.
But yeah, there was a sort of a weird, like there was a backlash about how badly that controlled and how the like frequency of it, and in fact a lot of the like planet stuff, there was a lot of repetition, which people also said of the second game a little bit, but definitely more so in the first. But like Mass Effect, getting all the bad parts out of the way, was like the amazing space opera that everyone always wanted in a video game that never got made. Like when you think about games like the Star Trek Elite Force series, or like all the space trading games that existed, or you know, games like X-Wing and TIE Fighter and like Freelancer and stuff like that. Like there was lots of games doing space, but none which had like real good character interactions and not much like good action shooting and stuff. And Mass Effect was like a fucking revolution. Like in many ways it's never been bested. It's still like owns that genre, and kind of like there hasn't been a non-space version done of it either. Like it's such an incredible engulfing story that you have so much agency in. Like you can have characters die which then don't appear in like 2 games later. And in meaningful ways, like the stuff that you do changes the outcome of the game, and also just changes like little tiny nuances in the story that you had. So I don't know, I think Mass Effect 1 is an absolutely tremendous game. I think it's not the best in the series, it's the second best, but it's the second best in like one of the best series in like modern day for sure.
Yeah, not much more to add, but I'll try. It's a wonderful series. It was a wonderful game. It had some detractors, and they're reasonable reasons. You've already mentioned them. It's controls in both like actual shootouts, and which there were probably too many of, and didn't really necessarily suit the overall idea of the game, that it was just this much shooting kind of going on, which we hammer a lot of games for. And although I didn't think it was game breaking, like it was not even game breaking, I don't even think it deserves to be brought up in something like term game breaking, because it wasn't like just super dreadful. It just wasn't as refined as it could have been.
Yeah.
The Mako stuff, I remember at the time being kind of a little bit puzzled about the kind of backlash, because it was like, it was probably more frequent than it needed to be, but also not completely, like, you weren't doing it all the time. You weren't doing it for long extended periods. And like, I think the only kind of games that bring in a little bit of that driving that, like, into that, like, say the recent Batman game got hammered for loads of things, but one thing that should be mentioned is that the actual times where you are in the Batmobile were just extremely fun. And say, I think the Warthog in Halo is probably the big one that's just always extremely fun. Like, whatever you're doing, whether you're playing multiplayer or just arsing about in a part single player and you're just driving around, they managed to just make that extremely fun for something that was so simple. But I believe I made an absolute arse of my crew in both Mass Effect 1 and 2. Got them mostly all killed in both games.
Oh no.
In the end. But like, I think that speaks to, and that hurt me, like, genuinely, which is, again, speaks to how well they made the game from a point of getting you to buy into characters, and also how well they really allowed you to make impactful choices.
Right.
It looked great at the time. Still looks good. Like, it's I guess that's because it doesn't have. It's kind of like a faux open world, so it's actually quite small, generally quite tidy kind of environments. So it's able to produce pretty good looking results. As far as space operas go, it's like, I think as a unique piece, it's like, it's worthy of comparison to things like Star Wars, of setting and creating its own universe. Things like comic books like Saga or whatever else. It's pretty spectacular. I love it. I think, like, just correct me if I'm wrong, but like, throughout all three of the games, you had the mix of shooting and technological advancements and all that, right? Yeah. So like, I remember enjoying all that kind of stuff. I just wasn't sure if I had kind of merged 1 and 2 together a bit there.
Right.
But like, I probably, I think you're going to say that 2 is the best of the 3. Yeah, and I think I probably agree. I remember absolutely adoring that, and I remember not being let down with 3, but just like, maybe I had enough of the formula at that point. But yeah, I really like the game. I could rate it pretty highly.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try and get to it then. Let me go first then, because I've asked you guys to do it throughout this episode this week. Let's say, so it feels like such a cop out, but I feel like it's going in the general vicinity of where we just put Tomb Raider, where it's like, it's maybe not quite. I don't know. Maybe it does breach the top 10 actually. Okay. I mean, God, Worms is such a hard one. Worms is such like a classic fucking game, and it's been around for so long, and the formula still works.
Yeah.
But it's really difficult to put things above that. Ratchet and Clank 2 is the one that I hadn't played with you guys, so I'm not sure. I feel like Mass Effect 1 for me goes somewhere between like 14 and 7, and I think I'm saying that because to me it goes like 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dennis?
Like,
you have a lot of experience with the games in that area.
Yeah. Like, Ratchet and Clank 2 is a fantastic game, but so is Mass Effect. There's not a huge amount in it either way. But like, I think it gets really tight in this whole area because, like, the difference, like, for me between Uncharted 2 and Ratchet and Clank 2 is supremely minimal, and like, they could be swapped for me and I wouldn't have any real problem with that. And like you say, Worms Team Hospital, then they're way off in a different direction of game, and they're both fantastic at what they do. Mass Effect, like, could go as high as 7 for me.
Right.
Could go. I think I'd get a bit of pushback on that because Uncharted 2 has a lot of fans here, including myself. Like, I'd be comfortable with it going above Ratchet and Clank 2. I'd almost be happy to see them cozying up beside each other in a 1-2 in either direction.
Right.
I think it goes above Mario Strikers Charged.
So what about Worms and Theme Hospital then?
Yeah, that's a struggle. They're really hard games to compare on a like for like basis.
That's the beauty of the list.
Yeah, but like they're and then in this weird way that there's a comparison in that these games are absolutely stellar examples of their genre. Like, Team Hospital is just absolutely one of the best like management sims
Yeah.
ever.
Still fun
No
today.
question about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and is pretty much timeless. And I think, like, I don't think the third person adventure kind of action adventure thing has come on so far that Mass Effect in any time in the future is going to feel like unplayably dated or anything. It came out at a good time where we'd gotten to reasonable photorealism and it went for that kind of art style and looked really good. But I think its strengths lie, even though it's technologically a perfectly acceptable game, its strengths lie in other places, and it will always be a game that will tell a great story, tell it really well. So I could see actually its comparisons to those games. I don't know. Yeah, like the more I think about it, the more it could easily slot in just behind Uncharted 2. But like
Yeah.
then I'm struggling for arguments, so I can't go a spot above Uncharted.
I feel like Uncharted 2 is
Too good.
it's like the Mass Effect 2 of that. I mean,
Sure.
Uncharted 4 I think is the best, and I think the most recent game was the best of the lot, but I feel like 2 is very similar to Mass Effect 2 in that respect. But then I would say Mass Effect 2 is better than Uncharted 2. Like that's I think it's one of the best games ever made. Yeah, I could see that. James, I know you're not like you haven't played much of it, but where do you feel about 7, 8, 9, where this lies in relation to that, or 7, 8, 9, 10?
I can understand why it would definitely go top 10. I think I can, like, for, again, while not playing a lot of it, I know it has a huge fan base and I've heard a lot about what it does. That's sort of very much like why I got it in the first place. Maybe it does beat it like Theme Hospital. Maybe it goes to the top side of Theme Hospital and sits there.
It's weird because like I think the thing I love about Theme Hospital, I think, is that it's like I wouldn't change a thing about Theme Hospital.
Yeah.
Like I mean, maybe the problem with Theme Hospital and the problem with Worms is that the first level of Theme Hospital, you've basically done everything you need to do in Theme Hospital. Like it doesn't really change all that much afterwards.
Yeah.
You get access to like surgeries and stuff. There's not really that much difference. And the same as with Worms, is like Worms is kind of just like Worms. Like Worms 2 is maybe the best Worms game, but like Worms 1 is pretty much Worms.
Yeah, what it is, yeah.
Whereas
Formula.
Mass Effect, you're like, it's weird how a sequel can come out and make you want to place the one before it lower. It's like a constant thing we keep putting our heads up against. Fuck yeah, I'm the same as you, Dennis. This could go 7, 8, 9, like no problem, and I wouldn't like. Should it? Oh fuck.
I would say, yeah, because even then, yeah, I mean, like looking at it, I like Worms, but I definitely personally prefer Worms 2. Theme Hospital is timeless, and Uncharted 2 is probably the best one of that. Well, like I haven't played 4, but that's probably my favorite of that so far. So it's hard for me. I definitely I agree with you guys. We can go any of those 7 to 10.
Dennis, if you had to pick one spot, where would it be?
I think I'd shove it in behind Worms if I had to, which I do. Pick. I'd probably put it in there. Like, is that unreasonable? Do you still feel it goes above them? Like your argument, and it's not even your argument, but like something you just said, which is that you wouldn't change a thing in Team Hospital Worms. I wouldn't change much about Mass Effect, but there would be some niggles that could be improved upon for sure.
Yeah. So you'd stick it in at 10?
I'd be pretty happy with that, and it's it's a really nice place for any game to be, like with given the next 10 games that follow it.
I agree. I would have, before I asked you, I thought about it and I was thinking 10 as well, just because. Yeah, I mean it does a lot. It tries to do a lot and it does a lot well, but just those games, there's something so pure and wonderful about that top 10 or top 9 at least to me. And yeah, like we know that Mass Effect 2 is coming down the pipeline eventually. And yeah, that doesn't, like, I do think Worms and Theme Hospital are like absolute classics.
Yeah.
All right, should we agree? 10?
10's fine with me.
All right, we got a new game in at number 10. It's Mass Effect from BioWare, a sequel coming out in 2017, 10 years after the first game. Oh my god, we're so old. And that's it. That's 53 games now on our tournament of lies, on a nice lengthy podcast this week. Thank you both so much for hanging out. We're going to be back on a weekly schedule. How do you feel about that, Dennis?
I'm excited, and I will be less sick. Apologize to everybody, especially you two who've had to listen to me croak in your ears for the last hour and a bit. But next week, a bit more energy, and yeah, look forward to it.
No need to apologize. Thank you so much for making the time, especially at
I love apologizing.
small.
Okay. I'm sorry to cut across you there. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Is it midnight there now?
Yeah, it's really late. I'm sorry it's so late over here. But
No, go to bed. Fucking hell. James, how are your team doing?
I'm sure we won. I don't know. Let me check. Oh, see.
Spark.
Let me check. Yeah.
Sparko Cam crashing again.
They get the fucking last laugh this week, Sparko Cam. Well, I think there needs to be an expose on Sparko Cam.
Yeah, sure. That's all. No clips. First thing will be
I think called Sparkle Soft, right?
nobody fucking. The most people who know about Sparko Soft is through this fucking podcast.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
We do marketing for them. Negative marketing is positive marketing.
Yeah. We absolutely trounced. There's 4 minutes left. We're 34-3 up.
Pittsburgh.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. We're going to the
did a
Super
great
Bowl.
job.
I did. I wore my lucky jersey. Next week I'll put on the lucky socks. I'll be working up that way till I'm fully uniformed by the Super Bowl.
Fucking yeah, helmet and all on
I'm
a
all
Tournament
full
of Lives.
pads.
Thank you all so much for listening and watching a tournament of lives. Hit that podcast subscribe button. Well, you already have probably if you're listening. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. You probably already have as well.
Oh, that'll unsubscribe you. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Apologies for all the weird video trickery that happened this week on my end as well. Getting loose again. It's also so fucking hot right here in Oakland. I'm like sweating. It's awful. I'm hopping in the shower.
I am regretting the jersey. It's so warm. I've just been sweltering here as well.
The worst. But thank you so much for watching. lies@eternallies.com to send in your suggestions. Thank you so much to Nathan Fear for sending his 3 and all of you for all the great games we got through. We will see you next week on a tournament of lies.